Hi, welcome to What's My Podcast. I'm Jen and I'm a library specialist for Arapahoe Library District. In the last couple years, I've gravitated toward podcast listening for knowledge and entertainment. Whenever I have a question about an author, subject, or event, I think, I bet there's a podcast for that. I also love that you can get a lot of information in a short amount of time. I spend a lot of time listening to different content, and I'd love to share some suggestions with you. Today's segment is medical history. Please be advised that the podcasts listed are not giving medical advice, and you should see a physician if you have any of the maladies mentioned in the episodes. My first recommendation is This Podcast Will Kill You. As grad students studying disease ecology, Aaron and Erin wanted a way to share their love of epidemics and weird medical mysteries with the world, not just colleagues. Now post-grad, Erin Welsh is studying tick-borne disease transmission in wildlife populations, and Erin Allman-Updike is currently working her way through medical school. So grab your Quarantini or non-alcoholic placebo-rita and join the Erins for a ride through the history of epidemic diseases. This podcast is for you if you love science and history and have a general curiosity about disease. Next is Disappearing Spoon, which is a podcast based on the best-selling book by Sam Kean. This show masterfully fuses science with the classic lore of invention, investigation, and discovery, from the Big Bang through the end of time. Sam Kean spent years as a curious youth collecting mercury from broken thermometers, and his curiosity led him to get a degree in physics. Now he's a writer in Washington, D.C. This podcast is for you if you love history and the interesting facts about early medical science. Legends of Surgery is a podcast that tells the stories of the people and events that make up the history of modern surgery, told in an informal, entertaining, and educational manner. Canadian physician Tyler Rouse has taken an historical approach to examining surgery, from ancient Greece to modern day. Tyler will discuss historical markers such as the sickness that led to hand washing and why Europeans call the operating room theater, and the ways modern surgical procedures have evolved over thousands of years. This podcast is for you if you are interested in learning more about the history and process of surgical procedures. Dissecting Medical History is a weekly podcast for curiosity seekers that gives the listener narrative details on medical history, events, and biographies. This podcast was created by a traveling nurse, Ange, who shares stories with other history enthusiasts. This podcast is for you if you like history and storytime podcast format. My last recommendation today is Bedside Rounds. Adam Rodman started this podcast when he was a second-year resident in internal medicine. Over time, Bedside Rounds has paralleled Adam's evolution as a physician. These stories delve deep into our human connection with the past and trace the intellectual, social, and cultural currents that have shaped modern medicine. This podcast is for you if you like medical history and want to hear interviews from people who have studied the events and individuals. There are so many podcasts being produced, and it can take time to find what you like. I recommend checking out the You Might Also Like list at the bottom of each show page. You can also search in your podcast app with keywords such as the subject or an author's name. All these podcasts can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen.